over 600 quarter-inch nuts. There's about 60 feet of half-inch by half-inch oak, which made 112 5-inch pieces, 40 feet of 6-inch pine, a ton of screws, a lot of 18-gauge wire, 2 small transformers, lots of cars. All of that made this double helix. Now, what was kind of interesting was, while I might have OCD, I've been known to wing it. So I just bought materials and I started slapping it together. And within 2 rings, I said, this is pretty wobbly. So I went back to the drawing board and actually tried to figure out what I needed to do. And it started out with getting a double layer of pine on the bottom so that these threaded rods could go into it and I could anchor it there. I'm going to get a little closer and show you without jarring you too much, I hope. So
Actually,
each one of these.
Get closer.
Get closer still? Yeah. Okay. So each one of these pieces of track had to be supported by a 5-inch long rod or the piece of oak. And to make it sturdy enough, I had to put a nut on the top and the bottom, and then on the inside and the outside. And if you do that, you'll get carpal tunnel syndrome from all the nuts that you have to spin to get it all to go on it. I don't know how many revolutions are in this threaded rod, but let me tell you, there's a lot. So the other thing is each one of these pieces of wood is just slightly super elevated, maybe 2 twists, just enough to keep the engines and the cars on the track. Not so much going up, but coming down. I found that they would jump the track very easily. The other thing that I found was you really can't run a full-size engine. So you either have to run Jeeps or some short form. So let me back up here a little bit again.
What radius is that?
It's 031.
031. So why is it having trouble? Is it because the rods, the support structures are too close?
Yeah.
Because any 031 engine should work it.
Yeah.
Well, but what happens is when you come around here,
Overhang.
it's going to clip it.
Yeah, okay.
Or
so
either the front end or the back end is going to clip it.
Needed a 6-inch piece between them.
Piece of oak.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And what's the grade?
What's the?
What is it?
Oh, I didn't actually measure the gradient, but it's 5 inches. So I can't tell you what that is as a degree of angle. But it's
no. It's how many how much rise per foot?
It's like a half an inch.
A half an inch per foot.
Oh, it's got to be more than that.
It can't be more than.
Oh, rise per foot. Let me think. Yeah, I'd say that'd be about a half an inch per foot.
Per foot. That's a half an inch per 12 inches. That's 1 inch per 24 inches. It's a 4% grade. That's about the limit.
Yeah, that's a pretty good clip, but it's.
Robert Moreno's limit on the 110 trestle set was 4%.
Yeah, I would call it the equivalent of a trestle set.
And what's the purpose of this?
There is no purpose of it.
Small layout.
It's my challenge to myself to see how much I could do. The only reason that it stopped at 36 inches or 7 loops that's how long the dowels were, the threaded rods at Home Depot.
All thread, yeah, 36 inches.
So,
Oh, just for your next project, to let you know that all thread also comes in 10-foot lines.
yeah. So let me turn the engines on, and you can see what it looks like. There are two very small transformers. You know, one's a Lionel, that's probably a 40 watt, and behind it is an old K-line one. It says 40, but I think it's more like 25. So let me turn this sucker on and see what it looks like. So back up a little more. So it took me a while to figure out how to actually balance the speed of these. And that's why I went to two separate transformers, because as you can imagine, when it's going downhill, it's picking up more speed, and it takes more energy when it's going uphill. So in fact, when I put the voltmeter on these things, I see that the down side is only at 10 volts, whereas the upper side is at 16 volts. And by doing that, they run pretty consistently. I can run it for maybe 5 or 10 minutes before you'll get that typical derailment that just seems to happen now and then. I'll leave that on for a second, and I'm going to show you what happens when you add another engine to it. I found it impossible to actually get a third engine to stay equally spaced, because no matter what, they just tend to run faster or slower. Now, I did a couple of other things. Let me stop and because you could probably tell by last week that I can't leave well enough alone. I like to have a lot of visual interest. Not that this isn't enough visual interest, but I decided that, remember King Solomon's mine? With all the jewels and everything? I guess maybe think of something like, was it Alan Quarterman? That old movie or comic read. So I made a backdrop, and I don't know if you can see the backdrop, but there are veins in it of silver and gold.
Yeah.
And just because I struck the mother lode, there's diamonds and rubies and everything. So my miners, they've collected their gold and their jewels and their silver and everything. And then the other engine, which I guess I'll have to.
I think you need another hobby.
Nah, I can just keep on going forever. So this engine I weathered a little bit. I did that with chalks. Did the same thing to the cars to make them look dusty. So one side is pulling out the coal and the other side is pulling out all the jewels. I put a couple little buildings in the bottom. They're plastic built with some people in it to make sure that they're all working hard. One thing that I still haven't gotten around to was I bought a Lionel coal dumper, but I haven't put that in place. And then I guess the last thing up top, these probably don't come out. I went on the internet and found a lot of old mining pictures, mostly abandoned. So, any questions?
On your helix, what is the spacing on those oak strips? Is it one piece of track or two pieces of track? It looks like two pieces of track. No, it's
Well,
every one.
no, it actually, so here's the end of a track.
Yeah.
And it's not held there, it's just held before. Here's the other end of the track. So
Every track has
why I
one.
used the 1/2 inch was this fit right over it tightly, and that way I was able to just put in a single screw per track.
Yeah.
And you can see
When
well,
it,
can't
when
see,
it
but it's-
when it derails, does it always derail in the same place?
yes. And in fact, what was interesting about a month ago, it started derailing. Let's see. Right? Let's see. Where's my finger? Right there. And I eventually had to remove that track because somehow there was a dent, just a little dent in the inside rail, and that was enough to have it jump the track in that exact same spot. Now, I have no idea how it got a dent in it because each one of these pieces of track were hand selected by me at swap meets where I was climbing underneath the tables and saying, could I have these 8 pieces of track? I don't want the other ones. And some people then asked me the inevitable question, why? And I told them, and they thought that that was an interesting enough story to wind up getting the track. Others said, get out of here.
I assume that's Lionel track.
Yeah, this is all 031 track.
Made by Lionel.
Yeah, it's all Lionel track.
Okay.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's probably not, but it does tell you Lionel right there. So I guess the other thing to mention, I don't know if you noticed when it came to the midpoint, there was a pause. I have a little fiber pin on the top level and on the bottom level. So like right here is a little fiber pin in the power line because I have the 2 transformers.
Oh, that's
So yeah, that caused a break, and you can wind up getting 2 trains on both sides, but that only happens if I let it run for an extended period of time because they're not exactly matched in speed.
I'm
And
speaking
I
from
think that's about all I have to say about this thing.
speaking from ignorance here, but I've got some of that track that is 70 years old, 65 years old, and it's not bright and shiny, like that is. Is there a way of restoring that track or renovating it, or
Well, if it's just dull, the answer is yes. If it's got rust, I would say don't bother. Trying to sand out the rust doesn't work. But I use a bright guard Scotch pad, and that's what I use. Maybe with a little alcohol or Goo-Gone, I find works nicely, but you've got to go very slowly and carefully over each pad. Do not use Brillo or any steel wool, because no matter how good you clean it afterwards, there's going to be steel fibers. And once that gets into the engine, you can kill the engine.
And it'll get there because of the magnet traction.
Yeah.
I use a sanding block. Like a 200 sanding block, very lightly, because then I can do the only part that counts is actually the tops of the rails, because that's where the contact is made. And I use a sanding block that I can go down and sand all three tracks at the same time, and it gives you something to hang on to.
The top of the track is where the contact is, but you've also got the pins, and they need to pass the current along.
Yeah, you got to be sure your pins on the ends are sanded nicely, that the pins are not rusted and they're clean.
Well, they also tend to be a little bit loose.
Well, you can always take a plier and tighten up the end of once you put it in. Or tighten it first and then put it in the right place and hit it with the back of a plier to tap it into place so it's tight.
Yeah. I also find that it's better to energize the track about every third piece.
Well, you can never go wrong with that. If you get it right, you probably can go every 6 or 7 pieces, but nobody's going to ever argue with somebody who wants to energize the track every 3-4 pieces. I know people that solder the track to each other so that it can,
I tried that. That doesn't really work.
A lot of work. The solder doesn't stick very well to.
Doesn't. Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this helix, I put a tap on every 8th piece of track, and that was plenty of. There's no real loss at 8 pieces of track.
I'd use a voltometer and check my voltages in different locations and use that as my guide to, especially when it's that old stuff. And so what I did is I bought a bunch of new, the current Lionel fast track, and that all being plastic, I'm just afraid to give it to my grandson. That don't know how long it'll last. If you're a little rough, you'll break those tabs off eventually.
Yeah, that's the problem with the fast track is once it's together, it's great, but you stand a good chance of breaking the tabs when you try to take it.
Yeah, especially 8-year-olds. They want to run it into the living room and then into the dining room and
if you need any custom pieces, you got to buy them. You try to make them. It's a
what I was doing is I was using the old tubular and making my adaptations so I could use the switches.
Right.
And that works fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
I made a jig, just chop up the tubular.
Mm-hmm. Well, most of my stuff I use is Gargraves, the one with the black line in the middle and the Phantom line Gargraves.
I did that with the fast track. I did that with the fast track too. Cut it up into pieces, and then use that for oddball locations and for the switches and for the control sections of track.
Yeah, the remote control sections.
Yeah, remote control. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I use, the remote control. With the Gargraves, the Super-O remote control sections fit very well with the track, and they look pretty good with that line.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get lucky, you can get a good price on them at a train meet.
My grandson, there's a room on the back of their garage. It's not real big, but I think it might be big enough to install the Lionel, and then with the fast track, winds up being installed once.
Yeah, once, no problem with fast track. And it's 036, so you can use longer engines.
Right.
And, everything looks better because it doesn't wiggle around the corner so tight.
Right. Well, the purpose of my attending this is just to see what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
No sense in reinventing the wheel.
Well, there's plenty of good stuff out there.
Your backdrop is very enticing. As I look around, it's
Oh,
a lot.
well, maybe next time I got to see if I can get a hookup down there and take you on a tour. But it's
that would be nice.
It's G-shaped, if you will. See, but it's G-shaped, and the closing of the G is a bascule bridge.
Oh, I see.
Oh, I can see. Is that by the door?
Yeah, by the door.
Yeah.
And the idea was you push the button, the bridge goes up, you walk in, you push the, well, the bridge only goes up about a 45-degree angle.
That's right.
So fortunately, you can pick it up and go through, put it back down carefully. But in order to get into the middle, because I made it purposely that the boards that all around are no more than 4 feet. So you can always reach in if something gets off the track and fix it. And all controls are in that center section. But if something goes on the outside, you're going in and out of that bascule bridge all day, picking it up and putting it down. Because it didn't go up like as far as I thought it would go up. I don't know, the one in Chicago is going straight up 180 degrees to the river. But the Lionel one only goes about 45 degrees. You can't get past it.
Well, their weight blocks might be a little bit different on those.
Yeah, I think that's right. Let me switch this, as long as you're talking about it. Okay. There's another angle on it. That's from where that bridge is looking the other way. There's the window.
Okay. And what's the banner in the back?
I took that down. That's one of the predecessors to the CSX.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what it's from. Somebody gave it to me. It's honoring something or other on that railroad, and he just gave it to me. He says, "You'll love this. Keep it." Okay, I'll find a place to put it. But it's in honor of something. The thing that you can't see is that above that and above some of those pictures, I have, which you guys may or may not know about, the complete set of railroad Jim Beam bottles. Jim Bourbon came out in...
Full or empty?
Yeah, they came out with all kinds of bottles of cars and trains, and they came out with train cars around 1990-ish. And so the whole set, there's 21 of them, is sitting up above the pictures.
And you finished each one?
No. Most of the time I got them without anything in them, because I don't care. Now, interesting, I used to have them in my office up near the ceiling, which was a great way to get conversation started. People would come in and say, "Whoa, what's that?"
Sure.
And I would say to them, "Well, you'll never guess, but what they're not is they're not trains." Well, they look like trains. Well, no, and you can only buy them in this state, only in one kind of store. It's not a hobby shop, and we never got them. But a couple of the guys knew that a couple of them still had liquor in them. And so the word was, if they ever have a lockdown in this building, we know whose office we're going to. That was the standing joke. So yeah, the Jim Beams are up there. I'll see if I can get some Wi-Fi to walk around on a cell phone or something.
Yeah, that'd be a good next one, because I think you've got an entire meeting's worth of stuff there.
Oh, probably. My thing is not the collection, but to make it run. And so just about everything works. All the old original accessories, they all work. Or at least they worked the last time I turned them on. You just never know the next time you turn them on.
Well, we'll have to see if you got field engineering skills.
The Greenberg book on it has all the pictures in it of the Lionel service manual. That's the Bible. That's the Bible. The only thing I wish is the prices that he's got in there for the parts are what they are, but they're not.
Well, do we have anything else, or do we want to call time a couple minutes early here? And more people will join in next week.
I have a question for you, Jeff.
Sure.
The camera setup, it's we're looking at your ceiling, and it's painted black.
Actually, it's painted dark green.
Oh, okay.
And
A reason?
choice of going black, or I could do it.
Well, I can see it's it's not black, but dark green it probably is.
Yeah.
It's very dark.
You know, that it was just the raw wood for years, and I said, oh, what the heck, I can clean that up a little bit.
Didn't have anything to do with lighting or the atmosphere, or just
No, it was me. Maybe it was a little bit more thought through than building a double helix. Maybe not, I'm not sure. It used a lot of paint. It just sucked it up like crazy.
why I ask is behind this 3-car garage that I have, it's a crawl space under the house. We don't have basements in California. We don't have the frost lines that contend with winter like I did in Chicago. But enough that I've been kicking around the idea of digging it out and maybe having a 6-foot tall train room. You know, I'm on bedrock, so that's why I don't really want to go much more than 6 feet. It would be a jackhammer work anyway, just 6 feet. But it was because I would wind up with the floor joists, and so that's why I was asking why you did it.
It also gave better reflection from the lights. Behind me, those are just the typical 4-foot long fluorescents.
Yeah.
Actually, over the train table itself, so I have spotlights, and I put those on dimmers. And that was actually thought out. That one wasn't by accident.
What is the size of your room there?
So the room here is 15.5 by 30. Approximately half of it is the actual train table. The other half just has train collection around it. And then at the far end, you saw the double helix. And the center is mostly empty because, well, you saw the ping pong table. That when the boys were living home, there were a lot of championship matches going on here. And I had already built the train table and I never really expanded it beyond that. I have designs on doing it. I'm just not sure if I have energy to do it.
We're looking at a helix.
Yeah. All right, well, it is 7:40 now, or 40 for some of us. So why don't we close off the thing and we'll see if we can really entice somebody on the call to get a Wi-Fi in his train room.
We'll try.
Okay. All right, thanks, everybody. See you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.